What is seen here as the world is but the Supreme Self, which appears as the world without undergoing any change in its own true nature. There's been no alteration in anything. I suppose it's like a hall of mirrors. You go into a hall of mirrors and you see all these amazing changes taking shape simply by walking along it. But there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on at all. It's just reflections. It's how things are perceived. There are different modes of existence. Even the scientific point of view ultimately chimes with this. There are many different cultures. We all have our own way of looking at things, some more idiosyncratic than others. But what's an insect's perception of the world? An ant or a bee or a fly? What's a fish's perception of the world? The scientific assumption is that they're all experiencing the same world, but in a variety of different ways. But how can we say there's only one world that's being experienced? Perhaps these are all different worlds. This one world is what the physicists are trying to pin down. The more they try to pin it down, though, the more it seems to slip through their fingers, and it becomes weirder and weirder, and becomes more of the nature of a dream, or of a giant thought. As Sir James Jeans said, the universe is more of the nature of a giant thought than a machine. It's far more likely that rather than a hypothetical world which we're all experiencing in different ways, there's actually only the one consciousness experiencing things in different ways. So that one world, that common world which the physicist says that we're all experiencing, and it's a purely hypothetical world, why not assume that it's consciousness? It's the one consciousness which is creating infinite worlds. Because that's actually what's happening. That's actually what's happening. It's consciousness creating infinite worlds. Your world, my world, the world of the scientist, the world of the artist, the world of the politician, the world of the fish, of the spider, of the orangutan, of the stone. Why not include inert objects in this as well? So, what is seen as the world is but the Supreme Self, which appears as the world without undergoing any change in its own true nature. It appears to be that which one conceives it to be at a particular time and place. All these apparent appearances arise in the mind as notions. Mind itself is nothing but consciousness. Hence, the appearance is false and not real. So the idea that there's one external world which a huge variety of beings are experiencing doesn't actually chime with the facts. That's a hypothesis. The actual facts is there's one consciousness experiencing things in a number of ways. And we all think our way of experiencing it is correct, although we might, if we're modern and sophisticated, we might subscribe nominally to an objective or external scientific picture. But it's just a notion, isn't it? It's just a notion. Concepts or notions, Sankalpa, latent conditioning, vasana, and a living being, jiva, are non-different from the infinite consciousness. We could even understand this as the three worlds. We've got our notions, the latent conditioning. This is the emotional drive to identify with particular notions. And a living being, well, this is the notion of an individual self. They're all the infinite consciousness. Even if they are experienced, they are still unreal except as the one reality, which is the infinite consciousness. Well, they're not experienced. There are sensations, emotions experienced. And we try to put order and understanding onto these things. There's stuff going on, which we categorize and from which we crystallize the notion of an individual self, of an external world. Therefore, when the unreal notion is done away with, there is emancipation or moksha. We're free from all the anxiety that notions of an external world and notions of an individual self produce. Once we have these notions, there's a huge emotional trauma associated with these. However, one cannot truly say that these worlds are wafted in air here and there, for all these are but false notions with the infinite consciousness as their substratum and sole reality. And as it's pointed out now and again, it's not really even a substratum, assuming that somehow there's the world and the infinite consciousness underneath it is not quite accurate. So it talks about these worlds wafted in air because earlier in chapter 18 we were told that the air in the entire space is filled with the pranas of the departed ones, because the mind arises in prana and the worlds arise in the mind, and the prana is wafted in the wind in space. So there's no wafting going on whatsoever. You'll be pleased to know. It's like the whirlpool spinning around its centre. Sometimes this is used as an analogy for Brahman. Brahman is the stillness, but actually it's not different from the whirlpool itself. It's just a question of where the awareness is. Brahman has infinite aspects. Brahman gets caught up in these aspects, and then we get notions of a jiva and so on. But Brahman is also Brahman. Brahman is at rest in itself and is then the sole reality.